Hello, hello everyone. See that the video is starting. There we go. Looks like we are live now. Hello, welcome. If you are here and making it live, feel free to check in the chat box. Let me know where you're signing on from, how your day's going, how you're feeling today. I know it's a Wednesday and it feels like it's been a long week already. We're already in the middle of July. But you all are here to talk about or to learn about marketing intensives. So if you have been in this group for a little bit, you may have seen some content already about what are intensives exactly. I've chatted with a couple of people around like the pricing of intensives, which might be a topic for a future live if more people are interested in hearing about that. But if you are newer to the group, if you haven't watched that video yet, if you are just curious and wanting to know, just to introduce myself, my name is Amanda Baduris. I am a licensed psychologist, originally from Chicago, currently living in Oregon. I am a therapist and woman of color. I am a first-time business owner in my private practice. My private practice is still a little fresh baby in the sense that it's only about a little over a year, maybe a year and a half old at this point. So really just wanting to share everything I've learned about intensives, about marketing pieces, things that would be helpful for you all to know when it comes to just finding ways to work differently, finding ways to work smarter, not harder, be paid for the knowledge and the skill that you have, especially if you do trauma therapy. That's definitely the work that I do, the work I'm really passionate about. I also do some couples therapy, some couples intensive work as well. So let's dive in a little bit about, again, if you are newer to the group, what is a therapy intensive exactly? Basically just a fancy word for an extended therapy session. So whether it's you're working in the traditional 45, 50, 60-minute realm, even just a 90-minute session is an intensive session. There's also intensive packages that you can offer around a 1-day, a 2-day. I've seen people offer like 5-day intensives. So really just how do we give more time and space for some processing so that client growth and progress can kind of accelerate. The benefit of that for you is that you can charge a premium price for that because people want to feel better faster. People want to see growth. Some people don't like opening up all these vulnerable things week by week. They want to dive into a therapy intensive, but they might not even know that's an option. So I know I've seen some people in the group talk about after last week's live that, they've even pitched 90-minute sessions to their clients. So if that is you, I hope that is going well. If that is not you, I hope that you're able to find some space to talk with clients about, hey, what would you think of just opening up some time and space today to get a little bit more into things, feel a little bit better, a little bit faster. And that's actually one of the marketing techniques that I'm going to share about today is how do you use the audience you already have, which are your weekly, your every other week, your monthly, however much you meet with people, the clients you already have. So marketing intensives, when you want to think about, this is a new service, not really, but kind of. It's bigger these days. There's a lot more questions in these therapist Facebook groups about what are an intensive? How do you structure it? How do you price it? What does that even mean? How does it work with insurance? If you haven't already seen, I've got a couple of different freebies in the guide section of this group, which cover some of those pieces. So feel free to check those out. Let me know if you want access to those. But thinking through, as a baseline, what are the ways that you are already marketing just your routine therapy services, right? Most of us have a website. Most of us have therapist directories. Some of us are on social media. So let's even start with some of those pieces of now that I'm marketing intensive therapy, how do I market that as a service in and of itself? I'm curious of the different ways that people can market a therapy practice. What are some of the ways that you all do? What are things that you've seen have worked for you? What are things that you've tried and haven't worked for you? So go ahead and leave some comments in the chat about just like, what are you doing already? What's working? Where are you struggling? Where do you want to be? What are some avenues you want to explore? It'll be helpful for me to touch on any of those pieces, share any pieces that I can share my own experience with. But just to start even with the website, right? So we all probably have some version of a website, whether I think Simple Practice kind of has a page kind of website that you can work with. I've seen some other directories have, or EHRs have like a version of a website, or you may have a Squarespace or a Wix or one of the many different options that there are out there. So to think about what is on your website, how are you marketing your current therapy services of trauma work or couples work or grief work or whatever it is that you do, with what you already have, how can you optimize your website to really showcase your therapy intensives? So most people are probably reading your website thinking about, well, what am I going to talk about week by week with this person, or check in every now and then or as needed. So people are already probably reading in the frame of what's it like to build a relationship and do some work with this therapist in that model that I'm just used to, because that's what insurance has always kind of standardized. That's what people kind of understand based on movies and TV shows that they watch, is you go see a therapist once a week. So even, hey, this is something different. How do you work intensively with someone? How do you maybe come in just once a month for a 4-hour session? So on your website, thinking about different, even like service pages for not just your different niches, because there's importance around that as well, but specifically therapy intensives. So having a whole page dedicated to, this is how I work intensively. These are the benefits of working intensively. These are some of the predictive outcomes of, if you work intensively, what can we achieve, right? So be thinking about that, like whether you have experience. I know some people in this group have said, I kind of already dabble in some intensive sessions. So you might have experience to already talk to about, when I've seen a client weekly for a month, this is where we can still kind of feel stuck, versus if we do meet for 90 minutes every other week for 4 hours once a month. Outline those benefits of like, why is it compelling? Why is it in the best interest of the client to work intensively, right? Again, there's the financial benefit for you as well, but you have to predict like, what are the obstacles that are going to come up for someone as they're reading that, right? Depending on if you price your intensive as a premium service, which you should be because it is a premium service, people might say the cost is a barrier. Okay, how do you manage that, right? Even on that copy on that website, how do you tell people you recognize this as an investment and here's why they should do it? Here's actually why they're saving money in the long term by engaging in intensive therapy. So creating that specialized page for intensives, even having like a FAQ, what the heck is an intensive, right? Clients probably don't know what that means. Therapists hardly know what that means because it's newer. So to be able to think about like, what wording do you want to use to make it as digestible, user, client-facing friendly of, this is what this service is, this is why I'm marketing it, this is why it's helpful for you. And thinking about, especially if you are doing more premium pricing for your intensive, whether it's 90-minute weekly, whether it's some kind of like intensive package, like a day, 2, 3, 5, whatever you do, you want to think about like, how is my website showing that I offer premium packages, right? Like, why should someone work with me even based off of how my website looks? Your website doesn't have to be, fancy, beautiful. I've seen people spend thousands of dollars on their website and yeah, they look nice, but it doesn't have to be that level of kind of upscale. But it definitely shouldn't look like it's something from the 80s or 90s, because our eyes these days know this looks current, this looks legit, this looks professional. If someone can glean already from just their first interaction with your website, this person looks like they offer high quality services and this is someone I want to work with. They've got calls to actions all over the different pages. Maybe there's even a contact form so I can get in contact with them right away, as opposed to playing phone tag, things like that. If you do any kind of automated scheduling, think about all the pieces of like, how does this client already have a VIP experience with me from the very beginning? So that's going to set someone up to say, yeah, I can invest in this person. It's really investing in myself, but I can give money to this person for this premium service because I get that trust just from looking at their website. So the website is huge. Thinking about therapist directories. Most of us are on Psychology Today, some of the bigger ones I hear of these days, and am on Therapy Den, Mental Health Match. I know there's therapy for Black girls, lots of different BIPOC related ones, LGBT ones, secular ones. So of all the different therapist directories that you're on, how do you currently market yourself on that directory? Are you saying things like, join me each week for, or things like that, right? Because all of that is great. If that's getting you clients already, perfect. Save that copy, put it in Google Docs somewhere. Don't ever get rid of copy. I think if you've spent time crafting that copy, always save it, never delete it. But I want you to think about, how can I write a version of that therapist directory, my entry on the therapist directory? How do I create a version of that where I'm talking just about intensives, right? To be thinking about, like, are you stuck in the weekly model of therapy? Do you feel like there's never enough time to get to everything you want to in your weekly therapy sessions? You feel limited, right? Like all these pieces that really grab their attention and think, yeah, actually I have been. I really wish there were time to just open up and dive into things in one session, and I didn't have to do it week over week over week. So really thinking about, like, how do I give that information, that option, and just like put that exposure out there, right? Again, like a lot of therapy clients do not know this is an option. So we want to all be thinking about, how do we market it as something that is more possible? Because I know a lot of us therapists, right? We're in the position of, I want to put myself out of a job, maybe not immediately, but I want to be able to not have the world in pain and people suffering, and thinking about, how does adding more therapy packages, therapy services, transitioning to an intensive-based practice, how does that serve that goal of, I am working towards healing more people more efficiently, more effectively, more quickly, right? Like if clients looking for therapy knew that was an option, so many of them would be looking for it, right? Money would not at all be a problem, obviously, like that's a whole other problem, but the people who can afford it will pay for it. The people who may not be able to afford it sometimes can find a way to make it work, or because you feel more flexible in your income because you're getting more time for your money, right? You have more flexibility in offering sliding scale intensive packages or pro bono packages. Like, it just gives you more flexibility to actually give back. So you're not limited in how you support people in this way, even if primarily you should be charging a premium fee. Don't try to haggle just because someone's like, ooh, that's a lot of money. But just be thinking about, like, how does this also open opportunities for other ways I want to work that are in alignment with my values? So in your therapist directory, yeah, again, just really laying out, like, this is what intensive therapy is. Did you even know this was an option? Look at my website, call me, let's talk about how this can benefit you and save you time and save you money. Really just highlighting those pieces that clients want to know. And then social media, if that's a thing that you are on, you don't have to be an influencer or someone famous on TikTok. I know I'm certainly not. But again, in terms of that exposure to what is the power of a therapy intensive, what even is a therapy intensive, the more of us who are on social media that can put that information out, the more people become aware of it, the more people seek it. The majority of my people who seek a therapy intensive for me right now are coming from Google. I would say like 98% are coming from Google. I've had one current weekly client refer their friend for a therapy intensive, but otherwise people are just finding, because they are searching for trauma intensive, brain spotting intensive, EMDR intensive, couples intensive. I can literally see the search words that people are looking for in my Google Analytics. So people are looking for it. So we have to help people know that is an option. And again, social media, it has its cons, but the pros are that we reach a lot of people in that way. So what is the kind of engaging and relevant content that you can make and put on social media that would really highlight, this is the benefit of an intensive, here's why maybe you haven't heard of it before, here's why you can consider it, here's why it's really helpful for you, right? Here's why it's efficient, here's why it's cost effective, here's how you're going to feel better faster. So thinking of those pieces of how do you incorporate that in there. Because so far right now, the things that I've talked about of what do you put on your website, what do you put in your therapist directory, what do you put on your social media, I call these the introvert-friendly marketing methods, right? Like obviously there are talking to people, networking, building your referral relationships, talking with doctors, psychiatrists, things like that. That's an option, but I know I'm very introverted. Sometimes I don't always appear that way, especially in spaces like this. I can turn on my energy and my level and my socialness, I guess is the word I'm going to use there. I can turn that on, but I do not have the social energy to be sending doctors letters and networking with people. And if you do, that's great. Use it, right? Like those people you've already reached out to, these people who you think would be beneficial to reach out to, let them know this is a service I'm offering. This is how it can be helpful to your physical therapy patients, to your chronic pain patients, to your whatever it is. You can find a way to say why this is helpful. So be thinking about like, what are the professional networking relationships with therapists and non-therapists alike that you've already marketed towards? Who do you have a successful referral relationship with? Let them know, hey, there's this new service that I'm offering. I know for me, there's a listserv of other therapists that I'm a part of. So also look into your state, your board, whatever professional associations you're a part of, and see if there's an email listserv. Because when people are posting things like, hey, does anyone do adjunct therapy? Does anyone, work with these ways? Does anyone offer, just powerful forms of therapy that can help people shift quickly? An intensive can do that. You can do intensives as adjunct therapy, all right? You can be on that person's short list of, I know this person does really good work with people in a really short amount of time, right? They charge a premium fee, but it's worth it. So to be able to think about like, who can you already network with? Therapists, non-therapists, any other colleagues that if you're in a group practice or people you've worked with in past agencies, complementary service providers, like anyone who can give you those referrals and kind of talk you up. And even in that process, like you're sharing with more therapists, this is what a therapy intensive is. This is what's really cool about it. I'm really excited to do this with clients. If they're clients you feel stuck with, does it feel like this would be an additional service to add on that would be helpful for them? Right? Use that network if you already have it built. And again, if you're introverted, if that's not your route, you don't want to do that, like I said, I haven't really done any of that outside of if people are putting out those calls of, please let me know if you do adjunct therapy. I'll respond to things like that. But I've never sent a letter to a doctor's office, to lawyers, to complementary care professionals. I've never done that type of networking, and I've never had a problem filling my practice. So it is absolutely possible to do marketing in an introvert-friendly way. So coming back to where I was starting with in terms of marketing methods, talking to the current clients you already have, right? You already have people who are working with you, who trust you, who like you. That's why they're coming back every time. And so for them to even know this is an option, you can talk about that, right? Like what would come up for you if we extended this session? I know I've noticed it feels like we're always getting to that hour mark and there's never enough time. It feels like it's hard to get back to the work that we were doing, or doing some of the focused processing can get interrupted sometimes because other stuff comes up in between weeks and it feels like we don't get time to go back to that. Let them know, like, this is not something you're forcing them to do. It's not something that you're going to make them do or make them shift into, unless that is what you decide. If you want an intensive only practice, let them know this is just an option, right? Like, this is something I think would be really helpful. What questions do you have? What barriers might come up, right? Especially as you talk about that pricing might look different, especially if you're primarily insurance-based. Pricing will look different. The client will owe more because insurances don't cover intensives as well. They potentially will do some kind of coverage or reimbursement, but usually they're not going to cover all like 4 hours of therapy in a day. But ask, like, what are those objections? What questions do you have? Inform yourself so that you know how to answer those questions. And again, talking about, like, this is where in my clinical judgment, I think this would be really helpful if we had some extended time to meet. It's not mandatory. It's all right, just to be aware of it. And to also not assume, right? Like this can be our own money mindset stuff of, well, this person's on like a sliding fee with me anyway. They're always talking about how money's kind of tight for them. Don't assume that people don't want this and won't find ways to prioritize making it work. One of my clients who I see every other week had seen one of my postings on Instagram about like, have you heard of a therapy intensives? Here's some of the benefits. And said like, that actually sounds really cool. How do we do that? Because I will make it work, right? I will save the money so that we can work up to doing that, right? I didn't even offer that to her. She just happened to see it on my social media. So another plug for why that's really helpful. But yeah, right? The current clients you already have, who already trust you, who already enjoy their work with you, just initiate some of those conversations of, do you even want to try just a 90-minute one next time? Do you want to try, I know you're really busy between work, school, family, all the stuff that you've got going on, summer's coming up, a lot of people are busy and leaving town. Would you want to try like a half day, just extended therapy session? And you just offer it, see what happens. So those are some of the biggest, most effective ways really to be marketing these intensives. So what are you writing on your website? How do you have a specialized page for that on your website? The more that you have a specialized page and you're using search engine optimization tools for that, the more people are going to find you. And then you're going to get people reaching out to you saying they found you from Google, right? You didn't have to even do anything. So running that practice on autopilot is always something that's great. Your website, your therapist directories, social media, if you're on that, networking, referral relationships, and then talking with your current clients. I want you to just pick one maybe to start with, because it can be real easy to be like, I got to go update my website. I got to go put some posts on social media, talk to my clients. Just pick one to start with. All right, what's the lowest hanging fruit for you, right? Maybe you don't want to talk about it with clients yet. That's okay. There are other places where you want to start promoting this new kind of offering, this new service. What would be easiest for you? Feel free to share that in the chat. And then just to think about like any other questions that come up around like, what would be the most helpful copy to put on my website? How do I talk about this with clients? How do I explain the insurance-based pieces? How do I prepare for, do I need to move some of my scheduling around so that I actually have space to offer these intensives to people, as opposed to, oh, now I'm working an additional 4 hours to 2 days in a week, because that's not the goal here. If there's anything that you need help with, you are always welcome to shoot me a message. I'm happy to answer anything. If you also saw the post that went out today, and some of you probably got emails, some of them might be coming in the next day or two, I'm also starting to offer some group coaching packages to really talk through intensives of how do we get you up and running quickly, confidently, so that you can market yourself, get paid more money for your time, right? For your expertise, for your presence, for your skill that you have, so that you're not burning out. Right? So if you're interested in talking about group or individual coaching packages, you've got my email in a couple different places. You've got my website in a couple different places, some of the free guides or the banner image up top. So feel free to reach out. Feel free to message me if there's any way that I can support you. If you have any questions about ways that I can support you, I'm more than happy to just hold those conversations. But if there's any questions before we end for today, I know we're all busy and I appreciate any of you that were able to make it live today, but any questions, feel free to leave those in the chat and I'll either answer them live with the last couple of minutes that we have, or I can respond to them if you're watching the replay. But otherwise, I'll go ahead and end for today if there are no questions, and let you all get back to your busy days, and hope that you all are doing well. And yeah, good question. For billing a 90-minute session through insurance, there's a couple of, you're welcome, there's a couple of options that you have. The underlying message and kind of take home, as we all hate, is it depends, and really calling the insurance plan for that information. If you go to the guide section, I just uploaded a new freebie yesterday around specifics of like what are the codes, what are the options of how you can bill insurance for. Some recommendations are around 2 45-minute sessions or 2 hour-long sessions with kind of the guidance and take home that sometimes it'll be reimbursed or covered fully. Sometimes insurance will be like, oh, you billed 2, we only reimburse 1, so we're not going to reimburse you for either, which is not great. So calling that insurance company, if you're able to, I think would be helpful just to get the most direct answer so that you know. But definitely know that there are some options. It just depends on how friendly the insurance plan is going to be with that. But I have seen lots of people make the 90-minute work through insurance. It just depends on specific insurance plans. For a formula for figuring out the private pay rate for an intensive, so what I've seen a lot of people do, which I'm going to say don't do this, is do not take your hourly rate and just prorate it, right? Like if you charge 100 for an hour, don't say 90 minutes is 150, because you are giving more sustained attention. You are giving more of your time. You are therefore, quote unquote, losing another therapy hour because you're going 90 minutes as opposed to like a 2-hour chunk or something like that. So what I personally do is, what's on my website for regular therapy is I have my 50-minute rate, which is $250. So I take my 50-minute rate, I prorate that to an hour to know my hourly rate. And then for a weekday intensive, I do 20% on top of that, so that my 90-minute intensives cost $540. For weeknight or weekend intensives, I do 40% on top of that, which, right, is a premium price. But if people can only do it on the weekends, if people want to do it on the weekends because it's more convenient for them, people will pay that price. I had someone pay, what would that rate be? I think that was $810 for 90 minutes and say like, that was so worth it, you should have charged me more. So people will pay and they will appreciate the service that you can give them. Can you bill a 90837 and then charge half your fee? I have seen some people work that way out as well. You need to work with, if you are on insurance, depending on what the policy around balance billing is, obviously consult your insurance plan, your contract around that, like don't get in trouble around that piece. But I've seen some people work out, I bill the 90837 and then I have a private pay agreement with the client that they're acknowledging that they're going to pay the difference of what the intensive cost is. So that's definitely an option, to bill part of it and charge directly the other half. If you're at a group practice and you have a biller, be sure to ask them those questions. They'll probably know the best way to do that. But yeah, really, again, just if you're working with insurance in any capacity, make sure you review your contract, because you don't want to mess with that unless you're looking to get off insurance plans. And then calling them directly to ask that piece around, can I bill 2 units of 90834s? Because that's, a 45 and a 45 is a 90. Can I bill 2 units of the 90837? See what they say. If that works, great. Then, right, it's no additional cost to the client, which is fantastic. All right, any last questions in the last couple of minutes that we have here? I want to make sure I give you all time back in your day. I know you all are busy. All right, well, again, if anything comes up after this time ends, feel free to just reach out directly. More than happy to answer any questions. And again, feel free to look over the guide section that has just more information around some of those pieces with insurance, pricing, structuring, stuff like that. But otherwise, appreciate everyone who was able to make it today. And for those of you who watch the replay, feel free to comment on the video, send me any questions via chat. Happy to answer anything. All right, thanks everyone. Have a good rest of your day.